everyone. This is Javier with the GovGeeks. Thank you so much for joining us today. This is a special series that we have where we recognize the really great accomplishments of public servants working in government, serving the greater good, serving others. I am so excited to introduce you today to our speaker. She is fantastic. I've had the opportunity to work with her on multiple occasions, and every single time I've been totally impressed. And I know from the conversation today, you're going to be impressed as well. So let me go ahead and introduce the great Rosemary Hill and read her bio here. Rosemary serves as the Director of Missiles and Space Directorate in the U.S. Army's Contracting Command in Redstone Arsenal. With over 30 years of federal acquisition leadership experience, she leads the day-to-day operations of a procurement team responsible for executing more than 28,000 annual contracting actions worth an estimated, get this, $18 billion. An established procurement executive and a veteran of the U.S. Army, Rosemary has held many influential roles guiding America's response to critical challenges. Ms. Hill is a member of the Department of Defense Acquisition Corps and holds a Level 3 certification in contracting from the Defense Acquisition University, a Bachelor of Business Administration in Acquisitions in Contracting from Strayer University, and a Master of Arts in Procurement and Acquisition Management from Webster University. Rosemary, that's a lot of accomplishments just reading through all of that.
Look, I'm tired.
Yeah, it's great. And yet you were able to accomplish all of that stuff, 30 plus years of history, working through things, and you're still so vibrant, so youthful, so energetic. And yeah, welcome.
Thank you so much for that. I was impressed by myself. As you was reading it, I was thinking to myself, wow, who is that he's reading about? But it's me.
I know, right?
Yes, thank you.
Such amazing accomplishments. Absolutely. Yeah. So like I mentioned, we've had a couple of opportunities to work together on a number of fronts, but absolutely, I am just always impressed by how positive, how energetic, and how motivated you continue to be.
Absolutely. And I too have enjoyed our interactions and my working experience with you, as well as on some other projects that we've worked on. And I think that connection that we have, as you connect with those that are part of your purpose, it makes it light. It makes it fun. And so it's easy to be energetic with you, Javier, because I think you pull out of me and you are just a part of that natural flow of my purpose and things that I just do intentionally. So it's easy. So thank you for that. Thank you for making it easy.
Oh, absolutely. It's all about building partnerships, right?
Yes, yes. Building partnerships and connecting others and all about that public service. I think that's the flow that it comes from, that public
all
service.
About that public service. Oh, gosh, absolutely. And to that fact, the GovGeekdom, our GovGeek community, I mean, there's all sorts of really enthusiastic people that are involved. They're interested in public service. They're interested in serving outside of themselves, making a difference. So today's conversation, I know we have just a couple of questions to ask. I'm so looking forward to you sharing your wisdom, your experiences, and your insights to really provide people with some deep value for how they can continue to serve others.
Yes, yes, yes. So I'm excited about that as well. The questions are power packed, and I think that if nothing else, it will start folks to thinking. There'll be thought-provoking responses that I provide, and I hope that as everyone listens to my responses, that they would just kind of think about them questions themselves and how they would probably be able to respond in terms of their public service. And for those that are in the business of public service, how can you do more without it being so heavy? I think it should be light. I think it should be easy, and so that you'll continue to be motivated. So hopefully my responses motivate you and influence just greater service.
Well, just by thinking about those questions already, I'm already feeling motivated and engaged. I love it. That's so good. All right. So the first question that we have here for you, what got you started in public service?
What got me started in public service? I would tell you when I was younger, I wanted to be a lawyer. And I just viewed a lawyer as someone that was well respected, one of those jobs, kind of like growing up wanting to be a doctor. But I wanted to be a lawyer. I was very quiet as a child. And so I like to watch people talk, speak. I like to watch and listen to the word usage and things like that. And being a lawyer, you had to be really like, on your toes, know the law to be able to defend whatever it was that you were defending or in that area. So I was always fascinated with being a lawyer, and I wanted to be a lawyer as a child. Of course, I think that it's good that I had a dream and an aspiration as a child. I think it's very healthy, and that if a child don't, then there could be some concern. But for me, that was mine. However, as I grew older, I wanted to go to college to pursue that of being a lawyer, but I ended up taking a different route. Instead of buying that briefcase and finding myself in a court of some sort, I found myself in a pair of boots. And they weren't cowboy boots. They were combat boots. And so my journey took me into the military in the United States Army right after high school. And I embarked upon a journey that I just did not know that I would, I just couldn't fathom all the things that I learned. So in terms of service, that dream as a child of being a lawyer was that of public service unknowingly, but also to talk about greater service and greater sacrifice in joining the military. That was the ultimate for me. So that's what got me started. I don't think it was planned, like I'm going to grow up and do something in the realm of public service. It was just who I was drawn to giving towards others. So that's how I got started in public service.
That's so awesome. It sounds like your calling for public service comes from this deep-seated location of your interest to really serve others, to really do something that's good. And I know attorneys have the opportunity to do that, to really make a difference in others' lives. And the fact that you found what that purpose is by filling those boots and excelling in the U.S. Army, that's just wonderful as well.
And also, too, I believe that building, if you will, and that drawing out of it just continued to happen to the point where, although not an attorney or a lawyer, I do find that negotiating in contracts, in the realm of government contracts, give me that flair and that feel of defending something. So as I go to the table to negotiate with a vendor on the behalf of taxpayers spending their money wisely, right, is that there's some back and forth, there's some give and take, and instead of the law, it's the regulations, it's the FAR and the DFAR and the supplements that go along with it. So there is still that stage, that platform of protection of an audience, of a community that I'm really in right now. So.
Yeah, that is a very good point. I mean, it's not just government spending tax dollars frivolously. I mean, you are responsible for, and your signature as a very responsible individual in government to have this responsibility. I mean, it's wonderful that you take it so seriously and that you're able to provide so much for the common good as a result of it.
Yes. And also, too, I'll lastly add for this is at the stage, the portion of my journey where I am as a director, I'm responsible for managing a lot of the execution that I used to do as I came up through the ranks of being a contract specialist and through being a contracting officer. It is extremely important to me to remember those risks that I felt that I was inherited or that were inherited through my duties. I remember those because I want to limit those same things as the folks that I manage and oversee. I want to limit that risk for them. So although I may not be signing, I still think of it as that way. And I still look for the resources. I still make sure that the development is there. So those that are signing right now to support that $18 billion portfolio, that they have what they need. So my community is pretty large. It's not just the taxpayer, but it's also to the folks that support me. And so I serve them as well. That's an element of servant leadership that I owe that to them. So I always have them in mind as well.
That's awesome. Yeah, having your community in mind, the people that are actually doing the work. I think that is such a great motivator, which kind of brings us to the next question. With all of the great stuff that you've been able to do and to get to where you are, plus there's a lot of people that you're responsible for. a lot of responsibilities, not just in your 9 to 5, but on other people's livelihood and their well-being, that are basically in your hands. I mean, you have the opportunity to influence so much great things. So the second question is really, what keeps you motivated?
Remembering the why. And I know there are different Instagram posts or Facebook posts that, different sayings and, what's your why? So I think that's the motivating. When you ask about what motivates me, it's the why am I motivated? And it goes back to people again, coming from serving in the United States Army for over 15 years. After I left that part of my journey and career to go truly embark into doing contracting, it was my comrades that were still on active duty, that had not retired, as a buyer, buying things, the products and services for the war fighter. Some of them were my comrades that I served with. And so I wanted to make sure that they got the best of the best. So I had been in their boots before. And so I knew what the ultimate purpose was, the mission and a vision of each organization, and in the DoD realm that I worked in. I knew who would be on the very end of that. And I knew when they needed and why they needed it. It was very personal to me. So that was the motivating factor for me to be the best contracting professional that I could, so that I can not only get the best deal for the taxpayers, but also to make sure that it was a quality product. So that I knew that my comrades and other warfighters would actually have the best that, that was out there by way of technology, by way of clothing and individual equipment. So they were my initial motivator and my initial why. And so as the time in which I was a government civilian started to be greater than when I was in the military. And it was interesting how that transition happened. I still remember the warfighter. I still remember my time in uniform, but then I had another family to think about. And it was still them, just being motivated by the pleasure of seeing my staff have what they need to make sure that they came to work and had the resources, the training, and fostering discussions to be open. And so that if they just wanted to have conversations about anything in contracting, they always had that conversation with me. I wanted to make it easy. I wanted to make it light. I love contracting. I know quite a few folks have it now, but there's an app for that. There's truly an app for that. There's an app for everything. And so there's a contracting app. And if I was sitting in a salon or just found myself waiting, I found myself not playing Tech Tricks, I think it was called, or some of those games, but I was doing far Quizlets, and testing myself and testing my knowledge, because to whom much is given, much is required. So I just wanted to be ready all the time with my skill to pass along to others. So that's my motivation. And I really take my job seriously, and the mission and the vision of the organization, because it matters. And they deserve good leaders. So.
Absolutely. Yeah, yes, they do. And it's interesting because I think a theme from the first question about, what got you started is really this idea about serving something bigger than yourself and listening to that voice inside yourself and following it into the Army. And then the second question about, well, what continues to keep you motivated seems to be this greater sense of empathy that you have for others, either people who are your comrades while you were serving with them, outside of that when you were helping to continue to serve with them, or helping provide for people that are continuing to work with you in all of your different roles. It seems like there is an inner voice that Rosemary Hill listens to help her move forward, which is wonderful. And that kind of brings up the next question. So typically when we ask the question, what career advice do you have? It seems to be a question that is geared towards people that perhaps are like entry level, or they just got out of college and they're trying to figure stuff out. But as you and I know, it doesn't end there. It continues throughout all of our career. So I'm curious, from your perspective, what sort of career advice do you have for senior leaders?
That question is, all of them are good questions. So I don't want to say it's a good question. I had to think a little harder on that question. And the reason why is because it matters. I was quoted just this week. Someone reminded me or said to me, Rosemary, you always say words matter. And then they began to say what they were going to say. And so that meant a lot. First of all, just knowing that people listen and you never know who's listening. And it was another senior leader, in fact. The other challenge with that question is it's almost advice I would give myself because I am definitely a senior leader within my organization and kind of, you know, uh, doing what you say. So if I'm going to ask leadership for something, it's kind of what would I ask myself for? What's the challenge that I would give to myself at a higher level of service? I get a chance and an opportunity daily to speak to very senior leaders within DoD. And so asking them questions, I never really thought about that. Like, when I do have their time, I have an opportunity to ask a question. But if there was advice that I would give, that's tough because I work with some very, very, very amazing leaders. And I look at them and I say, oh, they have it all together. But as I thought about this question, Javier, the two things that came to mind would be the career or the career advice for senior leaders is to purpose to be a servant leader. That's the one that came to mind because I truly believe that being a servant leader opens up a lot of doors. It allows you to see things from different perspectives. It allows you to continue to remember from once you were a contract specialist or a contracting officer, what am I asking now my team or my organization to do? How would I want to be led through that change? Which is the second thing is to seek to earn credibility with those in your organization, the same as those that you provide the public service to. And so I do find often that our senior leaders, they meet with their constituents and industry partners, and we're trying to figure out how do we do business together. And we're trying to figure out how to execute the mission for the warfighter. But sometimes our teams within can be forgotten. So it's continuing to kind of reset, rebalance, have our earned credibility, but not living on the same initial credibility that you have, just initially built, but you seek to earn that almost daily to keep yourself humbled and to kind of recenter and rebalance and say, okay, do I need to revisit what the mission and vision is? Is everyone clear on it? Because we have a group of folks that rotate in and out. So as we get people in, we have to make sure that everyone understands what the vision is. So to answer your question, what career advice do I have for senior leaders? It would be to purpose, to be a servant leader, and also to seek to earn credibility with those in your organization, the same as those you provide public service to.
That's amazing. I mean, just like how you said earlier, to whom much is given, much is expected. There's a lot of responsibilities that lay on the shoulders of the leadership. And it's interesting because in government, when you're able to achieve these high levels, you're doing your work like everyone else is. Yes. But it's recognizing where you are and the role that you play in others and in their lives. So if they were recognizing, this whole servant leadership aspect, like you've mentioned, and also continuing to make sure that you're maintaining that credibility and connection with them. It's not like, oh, this person started and we should respect them and follow their orders because of their past experiences, all of that stuff. Right. But that's just the price of admission. Right. Then exactly. After that, it's like, what else are you given?
Right. How do you sustain?
Yeah.
How do you maintain?
Because then really, when you're asking people that you need them to work overtime or extra hours, or there's really challenging circumstances, I mean, we all have a commitment to public service and it's an important work that we're doing, but still we're human beings and we want to know that we are in a safe environment, that people respect us and are trying to provide the best for us. That's, I think, a culture that really thrives. And I know from having the opportunity to speak with people that you've had a chance to serve in leadership positions, and people really tend to gravitate towards your angle that you have, your viewpoint. So my sincere hope is that other senior leaders who are watching this are able to take these lessons to heart and continue to provide a Rosemary Hill type of environment for excellence and sustainability.
I think there's always time to check on people. And given that we're in these unprecedented times, right, Javier, with the pandemic and the virus, public service have really, we've been challenged to take a look at that and how we provide it. Our communication methods have changed significantly because, in terms of public service, sometimes we get that face to face. But now we've been challenged to do more of this, what we're doing now with Teams and Zoom and things like that. So all the more we have to go back in our toolkits, our leadership toolkits, and say, okay, this worked well in that environment when I could see people, but I can't see them. I can't, just physically see that they're okay. I need to be able to listen differently. I need to be able to read differently because emails can be a challenging way of communicating. So one of the things that I did, and I shared with you earlier before we went live, was about checking on the entire directorate. So as I had all hands on yesterday, it was probably 90 plus folks on the phone, and I greeted every one of them. Everyone that was on the phone. And after going through the list, over there to the right of the screen, I asked, did I miss anyone? I don't want to miss anyone. And so for 15 minutes, it was just coming off mute and hearing the voices of everyone within my directorate. And I made time for that. We were going to get to business, and we did, but it was just pausing and saying, I think this 15 minutes is going to be well worth it. So that whole thing about public service, being that servant leader, that credibility, it's finding ways, how do I continuously reach the team, even after we've come off of a really tough task or procurement, is how do we reset, rebalance to make sure that things that may have gotten shaken up. I think we used to say in the military, you have to go back and clean up the battlefield. You have to see who's intact. If someone was wounded, did we say things that we don't normally say? It's that team building, going back to check on folks and say, what worked well? What should we do again? What should we not do again? So just continuously earning that credibility. And it's tough. It's really tough. It's really tough. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you have all sorts of additional demands on your time. There's other requirements that you have to do your work. So it's not like it's something that is readily available for you to be able to do all of that, but it's still super important. And what's great is you're describing a leader that makes that a priority and figures out how to invest the time that they have available to them in a way that is going to be meaningful for others. And connecting the dots on that, the fourth question that we have is, I think, something that kind of pulls all of this stuff together. We talked about, listening to that inner voice and deciding what you're going to do for your career and what you're following to go forward, keeping you motivated by having empathy for others, and then allowing yourself as a senior leader to really have the time and create the space to allow that interaction and check on people, like you said, making sure that you're clearing the battlefield, being mindful because words have meaning and words matter.
Yes.
With all of that stuff said, the bigger question as a next step is, well, what is public service? What does that mean to you?
Public service, it's big. It goes beyond self. And so that selfless service, that sacrifice, all of that make up public service because it's for the betterment of others. It's really not for the betterment of ourselves. So as I look at how I give and all the things that I described before, it's me giving. It's me pulling from within my purpose. And again, it's easy for me. I like doing that. And so that public service for me is the challenges that I have to overcome, they're worth it every time, because that means it's for the betterment of our communities, our country, but also too, it's for the betterment of me, because I'm growing in that process as well. And I'm figuring out how can I do that better the next time. So that whole term of betterment, not just for the betterment of our communities, whether it be our police force or our healthcare professionals, our war fighters, is for the betterment, and we each give a little bit. And I love saying, that a little over time equals much. And when I look at a little, and then it being just replacing that resource of time with people. So a little that each of us give, it adds up to a lot. So a little over time equals much, and a little with a massive amount of folks that give in the realm of public service, we give a lot, we give great, on a larger scale. And so I like to think of myself as that little, and I'm giving as much as I can over the time that I have allotted to me. And I know it's going to be impactful. That's my goal, is for my little to be impactful to a community, to the group of folks that I get a chance to impact and touch, and to help be better at their giving of their little, right? And so it's the betterment of others. That's what public service is to me, and it has been that way. So I care about others. There's always a balance of self as you give, because I always want to give the best of what I have in me. I don't want to give raw. I don't want to give out of a hurtful place. I want to give from a place of being healed, and not so much from an emotional state, but being healed in terms of being a developed leader. So I don't want to give from that leader that started out young. I want to give from that leader that have now gone through all of these leadership courses, had all this experience. I want to give right now, because I believe it's the best that I have in me. And there's more to come, but right now giving is very important to me, because I have absorbed so much over the years, and right now is the best time for me to give. And by virtue of how folks respond to me and how they pick up on it, how they're drawn to me, it lets me know that it's pure, and that my intentions are great, and that it's doing its part. So
that is awesome. It's amazing how much even small things, like you said, over time really makes a difference. And if we think about so many people working in jobs where they feel perhaps stretched thin, stressed out, even if they had a little bit of appreciation from supervisors, from leadership, from the environments that they're in, they too can recognize that public service, and it creates this wellspring that we continue are able to draw from, as opposed to just feeling like, oh my gosh, I am just like tapped out. I'm like butter spread over too much bread. I'm just so thin
right.
at this point.
Yes.
Well, this has been a great conversation. Your accomplishments, everything that you've been able to do is just phenomenal. And the very fact that you're willing to take a little bit of time to talk to the GovGeekdom about what you're able to do, I know is going to make a difference and an impact on the listeners' lives who are participating in all of this. This is wonderful. In terms of like closing thoughts, is there anything that you want to leave public servants with as an idea before we sign off?
I do. I want to leave as we close. First of all, I want to say thank you, Javier, for this amazing opportunity to share who I am and the type of public service that I give. Initially, we spoke, I said to you that if there's a takeaway for those that are watching, it's not so much to kind of take account of what I've done. I'm pretty amazed at what I've done myself. But
that bio was awesome.
I was like, wow, is that me? But just to think about my response and how would you respond? So maybe as folks go through it, to ask themselves those same questions, and then check out my responses. And if you are a public servant, it's how can I give greater if you can, but just to go back and reset and rebalance of the little that you have to give. Is it pure? Is it effective? And not going overboard, but just checking that in which you give. Is it effective? Is it for the betterment? For yourself, for your community, for those that you're responsible for. So I guess the word betterment would be what I would like to highlight for the betterment the betterment of others. I would tell folks to keep being amazing. Those that know me know that there's a few words that I just use all the time. I use amazing on a daily basis, every day, all day. I use them. I use phenomenal. I just love to describe the people that I work with in a big way because they do big things. They may give a little, but it's big in that in which they give. And also in terms of having a good, having a great, and having a grand day and grand time in all that we do. So be encouraged, have fun, find your niche in what you do so that you leave your signature. I know Javier says a lot, the Rosemary Hill. I started that somewhere. And Javier, I don't know if I shared with you, but I told my last team back at HHS that I was going to submit to have a The Rosemary Hill Day. It's just something I'm going to check off. They may tell me no, but I am going to do it. So it's truly been an honor. I hope that everyone enjoyed the energy that you and I had on this call and that I was a great interview for you. So that's all I have.
Absolutely. We are so grateful for your time. Everyone, thank you so much for joining us. We're really excited to have you part of this community. Please join me in thanking Rosemary. Give a nice little round of applause. That positive energy is going to float out there in the universe and everything. And more importantly, also, thank you all for your commitment to public service. What you do makes a difference. You are seen, you are heard, you are appreciated. The world is a better place thanks to public servants, and we're so grateful for your time and all that you do. Yes. Until next time, thank you so much. This is Javier with the GovGeeks, and we look forward to seeing you in our next interview with some really, really awesome public servants that we can all really appreciate in the world. Thank you so much. We'll see you then.
Thank you. Bye.